Hi, I'm State Representative Jerry Knowles from the 124th District, which includes parts of Berks and Schuylkill counties. Thanks for joining me today. In just a minute, I'll be talking with Majority Appropriations Chairman Representative Bill Adolph. Chairman Adolph led a bipartisan group of legislators in the adoption of the state budget for the 2012-2013 fiscal year. I'm pleased to report that the budget for 2012-2013 was completed on time for the second year in a row. This budget contains no new tax increases, no reckless borrowing, and has responsible priorities. How'd I do, Bill?
You did real well.
Very good.
You said it exactly the way they wrote it.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah,
hey,
great job.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you taking time off, and I thought a good way to start would just be to tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you represent the 165th Legislative District in the southeast area. So,
my hometown, Jerry, is Springfield, Delaware County. I represent 4 municipalities: Springfield, Marple, about 20,000 people in Radnor Township, and the borough of Morton. It's a very diverse district. I probably live, maybe 7 miles west of the city of Philadelphia in Delaware County. I'm sure a lot of your constituents use the Blue Route, I-476. I live right off the third exit on the Blue Route. So just to put it in perspective, it's nice place to raise a family, a lot of good schools, a lot of good colleges and universities. Matter of fact, in my legislative district alone, I have 5 colleges and universities. So it's a good place to raise a family and go to work.
How about sharing with us, Mr. Chairman, a little bit about your background in terms of your educational background as well as your professional background?
Yeah. Well, I'm a partner in a small public accounting firm. And it's me and my partner, and we have 4 staff accountants. And I still do individual tax returns, Jerry, during the tax season. I do it, mainly because when you run for office every 2 years, you never know whether you're going to be reelected. But mainly because I like it. My father was a public accountant as well, and we really took care of bookkeeping and payroll forms for small businesses. Your beauty salons, your barber shops, your gas stations, your small plumbers, carpenters, that type of business. We had some restaurants, some bigger than smaller ones as well. But it was the type of business that you see on Main Street. And that was the type of business that we would do, financial statements for and so forth, give tax advice to them. And it's a storefront, little storefront in the business district of Springfield. And I still keep my license. And like I said, I still prepare tax returns. And it's important because, you really, when you do somebody's tax return, Jer, you really find out, the struggles of meeting mortgages and paying insurance bills and the high cost of medical insurance and doctor bills and property taxes. So you really get a feel for what your neighbors and so forth are experiencing there. And I'll tell you what, I'll be doing their tax return, but, half their questions to me is about Harrisburg and what are you guys doing up there. So I really enjoy it. It's a break. I only do it on the weekends, during the tax season, but it's good. As far as colleges, I went to Christian Brothers University in Memphis, Tennessee, Cardinal O'Hara High School right there in Springfield, and all local elementary schools as well. So, I'm married with 3 boys, all grown. One's a financial consultant, the other one's a banker, and the third is a substitute teacher. So 5 grandchildren. My dad's still alive, God bless him. And it's it's a pretty good situation right now. Everybody's healthy, and once I get my son fully employed, we'll all be happy. But that's what it's all about. Just getting folks through school, making sure that there's jobs for these folks, and raise their own family, and have the type of life that that people want for their kids.
Well, very good, and certainly that's just the background that we want in terms of having our appropriations chairman. That makes a lot of sense to me that we would have a CPA. Pretty tough time. We were talking earlier, and I don't know that the average citizen, including we legislators, recognize the pressure that you are under, because we talked about it. This state is so different in terms of the people that I represent and you represent, and the priorities in terms of our constituency. So, could you just start off by giving us a brief overview of the budget this year?
Right. Okay, Jer. I'd be glad to. Number one, every budget year starts off with the governor making a presentation of the budget as he sees it back in February to both the full House and to the full State Senate. And Governor Corbett came in and presented a budget to us that represented $27.1 billion. And there was an awful lot of reasons why that figure, it was actually $200 million less than the year before. And so there was a lot of decreases, in education, primarily K to 12, and then some higher education funding. But there was also some decreases in hospital funding and nursing homes and so forth. And fortunately, and knock on wood, and I say that, Jared, because the months of February and March and April and May and even June, came in above projections. And that was a good sign for us to put some of those restorations back for we put $100 million back in for the accountability block grant, which gives our school districts some flexibility on how they want to spend the money. We are able to get hospitals and nursing homes full restoration. And there's not a family out there that hasn't had someone in a nursing home or someone in a hospital. And this is basic needs that state government should be able to take care of. And we balanced the budget with the revenues that we collected. $27.656 billion is still an awful lot of money, Jerry. But keep in mind, just last year was the first year we tried to balance a budget without $3 billion worth of federal stimulus money. That's 12% of our revenue. So we were able to do that, and this year, we only spent what was sustainable, not just for the current year, but we had to make sure that we didn't use one-time spending gimmicks and so forth. So, we're still bringing in the same amount of revenue that we were bringing in 2008. Okay, so we're in a very, very tough recession. We're slowly but surely coming out of it. And Jerry, I know where I live, people are hardworking and they want to keep their money. And it just wasn't the time to raise taxes. And I think the decreases that we made in state government were necessary. There was an awful lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in our Department of Welfare that went on for decades. And with our new Secretary of Welfare, he's really done an outstanding job, Secretary Alexander. And we were able to cut about $1 billion out of that budget the year before. And we've been able to hold that pretty steady now. So we're trying to take care of the folks that need it the most, okay, and make sure everybody's held accountable. And I think this budget will, and Jerry, $27.3 billion budget last year. and we projected our revenue, we came within $150 million of that projection. That's fantastic. So, we didn't have to borrow any more money, and we lived within our means, just like the small business person has to do, just like families have to do on their paycheck. So I was very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the last 2 years as far as the budget is concerned.
And I think the thing that we really need to remember, during the 8 years of the previous administration, there was a budget that had grown from $20 billion to $28+ billion. If, I'm not the CPA, but if you do the math, I think that's 40%. That's a substantial amount of growth.
It was, and of course that was aided with the federal stimulus money of about $3 billion a year for a period of about 3 years. But the borrowing that went on, and also the transferring of funds from restricted funds, dedicated funding source, into the general appropriations fund went on all during that, and all during those years, and our spending was unsustainable, just absolutely unsustainable. And all you have to do is take a look at some of these European countries. You cannot operate a government when you're constantly spending more than you're bringing in, and eventually it catches up to you. And if we did not control spending and make the tough decisions that we had to. I mean, I said on the floor of the House, Jerry, last year, the sky's not going to fall down, because you're getting less than you got the year before. And we contributed more into public education in state dollars than we did the year before, but they lost that federal stimulus money. We could have never made up for that money unless we would have implemented a real large state income tax, and that was out of the question, in my opinion.
And a little later, I'd like to get into specific areas of the budget. It seems to me that the majority of the talk that took place in our caucus had to deal with basic ed, higher ed, as well as human services.
Yes.
And we can talk about that a little later, but sure. Just before we go to break, it must be an interesting setting when you go into that room with the governor's folks, as well as the minority appropriations chair in the House and the Senate, and it must be an interesting.
Yeah. Well, it is, because, well, first of all, each person there was elected by their peers, okay, to represent their caucus that represents the people of Pennsylvania, and it can get very interesting in that room, and we're able to get a lot of things accomplished in certain meetings, and some meetings we go backwards, and but because there's major differences in the areas that folks represent, but at that budget table, every corner of Pennsylvania is represented. And I mean, we have our leader is there, the House leader is from Allegheny County, and I mean, you talk about a rural area. We got Sam Smith, our Speaker of the House from Punxsutawney, and then myself from the metropolitan area, Philadelphia, the suburbs in Delaware County. So just our House Republican leadership is diverse, and we respect each other's areas where we come from. So, and the Senate is the same way. So it's but we all know that we have to pass a budget on time, and you kind of you made light of that. But you know what, Jerry, that is so important, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was here years under the previous administration where, we didn't pass a budget sometimes till August, sometimes till December. Our school districts didn't receive money, our hospitals didn't receive money, our nursing homes didn't receive money, college grants were held up. So I know some social agencies that had to borrow some money. So that all caused increased debt and so forth. So it's a constitutional responsibility to get that budget passed on time, and it has to be balanced. And with your help and the help of our colleagues, we got it done, and we did get some bipartisan support, for the budget, and I certainly appreciate those folks that voted for the budget.
Well, Mr. Chairman, when we come back, I'd like to just, over a break, you can think a little bit about it. I'd like to talk about the three areas that I mentioned. I'd like to go in detail in terms of higher ed, basic ed, as well as human services.
Sounds good.
For now, we're gonna take a little break, and you and I can take a sip of water and get our breath. So
sounds good.
I'm here with Representative Bill Adolph, the Majority Appropriations Chairman, and we will be right back with Legislative Report.
Did you know that Act 16 of 1999 honors one of the greatest leaders in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives? The Matthew J. Ryan Legislative Office Building, once known as the Capitol Annex, is located next to the main Capitol building and honors the late Speaker of the House, Matthew J. Ryan. Those who visit this building will observe the magnificent architectural designs providing eloquence and grandeur to the building. Known as one of the greatest members in the history of the Pennsylvania State House, Matthew Ryan started his career in the legislature in 1963 and was elected Speaker in 1981. His charisma and knowledge will forever be reflected in the building now named after this great legislative leader. Now you know.
Welcome back to the program. I'm discussing the state budget with my good friend, Majority Appropriations Chairman, Representative Bill Adolph. Mr. Chairman, again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us.
I'm enjoying it, Chair.
I am too. One of the things, Bill, that I hear from my constituents, and some of them who have concerns about the welfare program, as well as basic ed, and as well as higher ed, and that is, why are you always picking on those three areas? So can you just tell us a little bit about why we are picking on those areas?
Well, Jar, as some of the pie charts are going to show your constituents, we certainly don't pick on those areas. They are the highest as far as expenditures that the state has. In a $27.6 billion budget, education is getting 40% of that. 40% of that. K-12 gets 35%, and higher education gets 5%. The Department of Welfare, which is a tremendously huge department, and I think it really should be called the Department of Health and Welfare, because that's where the hospital and nursing homes and all those type of categories are also in, okay, is close to 40%. I think it's exactly 38% of our budget. So that takes us to 80% of our budget. You add in some corrections at 7%, we're almost up to 90%. So between those three, we're spending over $20 billion a year. So we're not picking on them by no means. Matter of fact, these last two budgets, we've put in more state tax dollars into K-12 than we've had in the previous years. Okay, I mentioned, briefly about the loss of the federal stimulus money. Once again, Jerry, we could not sustain that. We could not pick up revenue to pick up that loss of federal stimulus money. I remember when the school districts were receiving the federal stimulus money, we all sent letters out to our superintendents and to our school boards. Here's the stimulus money. This is what you should be spending it on. But keep in mind, June 30th, 2011, it's over. So you can backfill on some programs, but don't start new programs unless you can sustain it with local revenue. So, and some school districts took that to heart, others did not. And But no, we take funding education very seriously here in Pennsylvania, very seriously. And between school property taxes and state income taxes and sales taxes, there's an awful lot of money that's put into education. On the Department of Welfare, I think this year, Jerry, and I know you were one of the leaders in our caucus regarding the new block grant system, and it's kind of complicated, quite frankly. The state has the money, and they appropriate it down to the 67 counties, but there were strings attached. Okay, 7 strings. Okay, and that money had to be put into, say, silos for each of those categories. It could be MHMR, it could be homelessness, it could be drug and alcohol, mental problems. Okay, but there were 7 categories. Well, sometimes what would happen is that MHMR would run out very early in the year, and then maybe a drug and alcohol program did not run out. But our county commissioners, Jer, they could not transfer the money to where they needed it. So the administration and the Township and County Commissioners Association, the County Commissioners Association came up with this block grant idea where we'll just send you one check, no strings attached. You spend it where you need it. And as a result of that, there would be some savings involved. So because if you didn't spend that money in those 7 silos, some of that money had to be lapsed back to the state. So it wasn't a true sign of what they were spending. So I'm sure it's going to have some, we're going to have to iron out some wrinkles with it. And we're certainly willing to work with our counties. Okay, we're partners in this. But, your constituents should know that, and your county commissioners should certainly know that you were a vocal supporter of this block grant, and I think it's going to work. It's going to take some time to get it all through the administration and everything, but I think in the long run it's going to save taxpayers money, and those that need it the most will get their money.
One of the funny things, Bill, I had a comment made to me, and I myself did not realize how many former county commissioners were in the House and the Senate. And one of the guys said to me, at one time I thought we had too many lawyers here. Now I'm starting to think we have too many county commissioners here. But there really was as a former county commissioner, I really did recognize the importance. And one of the other things that I really learned, Bill, in the time that I've been here, it's all about compromise. If you go into this thing with a headstrong idea that you're going to get everything that you want, you're going to be disappointed.
Jerry, that's such a true statement, and I think that's what we find out what's wrong with Washington, because there's no compromise. I know, the Marcellus Shale issue, for example. The previous administration could never get anything through because it was either the highest rate of tax in the nation or that's it. Okay, Governor Corbett came in here and he was opposed to any type of taxes, but he has changed. He has been able to accept a local impact fee. We're going to get money for our roads and for our infrastructure. So there's a compromise going on, and the gas drillers get a certainty to know what the fee is going to be, and it's up to the county commissioners once again to adopt the local ordinance that will put the fee into place. And the PUC as well as DEP are going to help regulate the wells and so forth. So I think it was a good compromise, fits into our total tax structure. So I think we are accomplished, and I think this gas industry is bringing hundreds of thousands of jobs into our state, and good paying jobs, and I think people will see that. And Jerry, it's unbelievable how our energy bills are starting to go down as a result of this natural gas.
Yeah, it is. It is incredible. And again, I'll go back to what we talked about earlier. When you talk about the fact that you have 203 legislative districts, you have 50 senatorial districts, and then you have a governor. And it is really a challenge. And people criticize us at times that it takes too long and this and that. But I don't know that they, even the difference in my district and your district, it's just so great.
Jerry, we have public transportation funding in the state budget. Now, I can walk 2 blocks and jump on the trolley, all right? We probably can drive, maybe 400 miles in certain areas of Pennsylvania and never see a trolley. We have subways, and public transportation is an important issue in Pittsburgh area, in Harrisburg, in Scranton, in Philadelphia area, and the rural legislators have to understand that. Another area that we spend an awful lot of money in, is agriculture. It's #1 industry. I don't have a farm.
I was going to say,
but I certainly eat enough of the stuff that comes off those farms, so I certainly can understand why it's our best interest to make sure that our industry stays #1.
Now, Bill, as one of the brightest minds in the state legislature, what do you? How do you feel about this year in terms of the projections, in terms of the revenues? Are you cautiously optimistic?
Yeah, I think we put together a pretty good revenue package. I mean, we did not raise state income tax. It's still one of the lowest in the nation at 3.01. Okay, and the corporate net income tax is still one of the highest in the nation. But we started to continue to repeal the capital stock and franchise tax. We now changed the little calculation. It's called the single sales factor. It's going to save businesses about $12 million next year. I think we're okay with the revenue. We get more people to work. Jerry, I know the state government worked along with private industry to save the 3 refineries in southeast Pennsylvania from closing. That alone is going to save us $250 million in unemployment compensation if those 3 refineries would have closed. Something like 2,000 direct jobs and something like 32,000 indirect jobs would have been lost. The governor did an excellent job there. We were able to pass some legislation, KOZ zones that help these businesses relocate with some tax credits. And we got an airline, Delta Airline, now buying ConocoPhillips. It's the first in the nation. We're doing some good stuff. But we have some major issues that we have to address. Our unfunded liability in our pension system is probably going to be one of the toughest decisions that we're going to have to make probably next calendar year. I know that's high on the governor's list and many of our colleagues in our house. So we got some issues still to address, and I think the people want us to tackle some of these hard issues, and I'm ready to do it.
You certainly are. Again, I want to thank you for joining me for this budget update. Our Majority Chairman, Representative Bill Adolph, a gentleman and a scholar, and I want to thank you for the good job that you've done in getting a budget done, holding the line on taxes, controlling spending, and getting it done on time.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Chairman Adolph. As a reminder, I will be soon sending out my annual newsletter as a way to keep you informed on the issues taking place in Harrisburg and throughout the district. If you have any questions, please contact my office. The contact information will be appearing on your screen momentarily. Until next time, I'm State Representative Jerry Knowles.